Hello, welcome to this video. If you're new here, my name is Rachelle. Today in this video, I'm going to give you 10 book recommendations that will get you out of a reading slump. I actually took a really long time putting this list together. There's so many good books out there, but I really just wanted to put together a list for you guys that I truly believe will get you out of a reading slump when you are in one. These books I picked out definitely got me out of a reading slump, and believe me, I've been in a reading slump many times. So I really hope that if you are currently in a reading slump, or if you find yourself in a reading slump in the future, you would give one of these books a try, and hopefully it'll get you back into reading. Before we get into this video though, if you guys haven't already done so, be sure to subscribe to my channel, click the bell icon to stay up to date when and what I post, and give this video a thumbs up. And without further ado, let's get into these 10 books that I think will get you out of a reading slump. So the first book in this list is Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas. This is a YA fantasy novel. It is a series too. I picked up this book right after I finished Sarah J. Maas's A Court of Thorns and Roses series. I absolutely adore that series and it's one of my favorites. So I just had to pick up Throne of Glass to see if I liked it as well, and I did. That summer I read the entire Throne of Glass series, but specifically for this one book, I gave it a 4-star rating. Something I really liked about this book is just the magic, the plot, and the whole story world in general. All of these parts of the book were just so interesting, and what made me love the book even more were the characters. For me personally, in any story, it's the characters that will make me fall in love with the story. In this book, there's this trio, Selena, Dorian, and Kaol, and they have my entire heart. When you read about the dynamic the three of them have with each other, there's just something so special about it, and I can't really explain it. I also love how this book features a strong, independent woman who can 100% fight her own battles. Sarah J. Maas did a really amazing job developing the characters and the relationships they have with each other. This book is just the beginning to a whole world, and as soon as I finished this book, I just had to pick up the second book because I was just that invested in the story. The next book in this list is Sith by Neal Shusterman. This is a YA fantasy dystopian novel. I gave this book a 4-star rating. This book was a very engaging read. I never lost interest in the story, and sometimes with fantasies, I find that they just get right into the thick of things, introducing the world and all the characters at once, and I find that eventually gets a little overwhelming and I get confused, but this book doesn't do that at all. The author reveals these story elements bit by bit, but it's not at a slow pacing, so it won't make you bored. One thing I will say though, when you read the synopsis of this book, you'll find out that the story talks about death and taking life, which may sound dark and may not be for everyone, but trust me when I say this book is not gory at all. I am someone who can't handle horror content at all because I don't like the gore, the blood, the guts, and there was not one point for me while reading this book where I was just like, I can't take this anymore. I would say the death in this book was described in a subtle way. So if you're looking for a good book to enter the sci-fi dystopian genre, I would recommend you pick up this book. The next book in this list is The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This is a historical fiction novel. This is probably one of the best books I've ever read in my entire life. I gave this book a 5-star rating. I'd honestly recommend this book to anyone, any day. Although I might be a little biased because Taylor Jenkins Reid is one of my favorite authors. Evelyn Hugo's story is just so beautiful and heartbreaking at the same time. I especially love Evelyn as a character because she's kind of badass, not gonna lie. She knows what she wants and she'll do anything in her power to get what she wants. That type of character is just so inspiring to me, especially being a woman, because it's just so difficult to be brave and bold like that. Also, I absolutely love the old Hollywood vibe in this book. As someone who works in the film industry, this book was right up my alley. It was really nice to read about the Hollywood industry practices back then, because there are some similarities between then and now, and of course there's also some differences. In so many ways, this book is literally the truth behind Hollywood glamour. Also, the big reveal at the end of the book really surprised me because I did not expect that at all. This book is so incredibly written and captivating. I never found myself bored at one point in this book. There's just something about TJR's writing that just sticks with me. I actually remember this book did take me a little while to read, but that's not because it was a difficult read. I took a while to finish this book just because I want to savor the story. The next book in this list is Magnolia Parks by Jessa Hastings. This is the first book in the series. There are currently 4 books out. Before reading this book, I've heard mixed reviews about it. Some people loved it and some people it just wasn't for them, but I love this book. I gave this book 5 stars on Goodreads. This book is literally a British version of Gossip Girl. The two love interests are basically Chuck and Blair. And I don't know about you, but I love Chuck and Blair. Magnolia and BJ's relationship in this book is so toxic. Magnolia dates other guys to hurt BJ, and BJ sleeps with other women to hurt Magnolia. And they literally do this on purpose, and it gets kind of frustrating. But somehow, I don't get annoyed with the toxic dynamic. I found it so entertaining, and the story eventually became addicting to me. This book has a lot of pop culture references, like it refers to expensive clothing brands. And normally I don't like pop culture references in books, but I actually didn't mind it at all in this book, and that's surprising to me. What I also liked about this book is that it has a mix of short and long chapters. I would say majority of the chapters are like medium length. In terms of the pacing of this book, I would say this book is medium paced, but the font is quite big, and with all the drama that happens, it's just so easy to fly through this book. It's definitely a page turner. The next book rec I have for you is Love in Other Words by Christina Lauren. This is a romance novel, and it fits in the childhood friends to lovers trope. This was such a cute read. Something I loved about this book is how it was told in alternating timelines. It switches between past and present, and because it alternates timelines, you can really see the dynamic between Macy and Elliot as children and why they are meant to be together as adults. I also really loved how Macy and Elliot are bookworms. It's just so fitting because I'm a reader, and if you're watching this video, you're probably a reader too, or you might want to get into reading. One thing I will say though is that this book does take its time to reveal the answers we're looking for. It's not a slow read by all means. It's more like a medium-paced book, but the history and the present day timeline unfolds at a steady and constant rate that it did take me a little bit longer to read than most romances. I know this book gets a lot of hype on TikTok, and I have to say that it deserves all the hype because I gave this book a 5-star rating. The next book is The Unhoneymooners by Christina Lauren. This is also a romance novel, and it fits into the enemies to lovers trope. This book felt like a rom-com. It was definitely very fun and a very lighthearted read. I have to say the concept of this book was quite unique, and I liked it a lot. Basically, they're at this wedding, and everyone who attends the wedding eventually gets food poisoning, except for the two love interests, who are Olive and Ethan. So because they are the only two who aren't sick, they have to go on this all expenses paid for honeymoon in place for the bride and groom so the trip isn't wasted. I just love reading about Olive and Ethan's journey and how they became from enemies to lovers. With all the books that fit into this trope, that change is always just so interesting to me. There's also very funny banter between Olive and Ethan, and that made the story really entertaining to read. I actually flew through this book. I was enjoying it a lot, and it was just such a quick read for me. I ended up giving this book a 4-star rating. The next book in this list is The Love Hypothesis by Ali Hazelwood. This is a romance novel that fits into the fake dating trope. This one was also a very cute read. The love interests are Olive, a PhD candidate, and Adam, who is a professor. However, Adam is not Olive's professor, which makes this romance okay. I mean, if he was, it would make it kind of messed up, so I'm glad they're not. But I really just love how this was a nerdy romance. It was really adorable, and I was just here for it. This book was also another one that felt like a rom-com. It was entertaining, fast-paced, and definitely a page-turner. I read this book literally in a day. The chemistry between Olive and Adam were right there in the pages. Of course, the characters were 100% likable, which is definitely an important factor in a romance in my opinion, and I'm not gonna lie, but Adam is probably one of my book boyfriends. I also ended up giving this book a 4-star rating. The next book in this list is The Couple Next Door by Shari Lapina. This is a mystery thriller novel, and this is probably the first book I picked up in this genre. I actually went into this book not knowing if I would like it or not. To be honest, I just wanted to get this book off my TBR, and that's why I read it, but I'm so glad I did because I liked it a lot. While reading this book, I found myself on the edge of my seat. There was a lot of tension, and it was definitely a page turner because I just wanted to know what happened to the baby and how the baby went missing. I definitely feel like that feeling of wanting to know what happened is just such a crucial feeling, especially when you're reading a mystery thriller novel. The one thing about this book that I did find a little disappointing was that I found the story a little bit predictable. The whole point of the story was to figure out who took the baby, and it came to a point where all the arrows were pointed at a certain character, and they tried to justify why it wasn't this person, but then it ended up being this person who took the baby. Yeah, so because the story was a tad bit predictable, I gave this book a 4-star rating. The next book in this list is Rock, Paper, Scissors by Alice Feeney. This is a mystery thriller novel. I've heard nothing but good things about this book, and that's why I picked it up, and I absolutely love this book to the point that I gave it a 5 stars. If I remember correctly, I was hooked from the very first page. I was just so intrigued by the character Adam, who has face blindness, so basically he can't recognize faces, not even his own wife. Just imagining not being able to recognize your own partner is crazy to me, and I think that's probably one of the main characteristics that pulled me into the story. There was also so much tension and action when reading the book. Reading this book also kept me on the edge of my seat. seat. This book was also very fast paced, so if you're looking for a page turner, this is your book. There was also this huge plot twist at the end of the book, and I did not expect it. When I finally got the answers I was looking for, I was literally like, what the fuck? This story was just crazy to me. Something I liked about this book was how the chapters were divided into different perspectives. I always love books written like this because it gives you a thorough insight to what each character is thinking or what is going through their head. The last book I'm going to recommend you here is The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelids. This is another mystery thriller novel. Before reading this book, I've heard nothing but good things about it, and oh my god, they were right because I love this book. This was a 5-star read for me. There was a huge plot twist that made the ending very unexpected. I was actually shocked and mind-boggled when the answers were revealed. I was actually still thinking about this book days after I finished reading it. That's how insane this story was. I have to say though, the characters in this book weren't very likable, and usually that would make it a very unsatisfying read for me. However, it didn't really annoy me because the plot was just so crazy that I kind of just forgot about the unlikable characters. I remember this book had short chapters, and I love short chapters because for some reason I feel like they make the book fly by faster. I would say this book is medium paced, but slowly the plot and intensity builds up, and then it hits a point where it becomes a page turner. I just couldn't stop reading after that certain point because of course I just wanted to know what happens. I really just can't emphasize enough how much this book will blow your brains because it's just that good. Alright guys, these are the 10 book recommendations I have that will hopefully get you out of a reading slump. I hope you guys liked my book choices and enjoyed hearing what I had to say about each of them. If you're currently in a reading slump and you do try out one of these books, let me know how it goes for you. I would love to hear what you think. And with that, I will see you guys in my next video. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. There will definitely be more book content, and give this video a thumbs up. If you would like to stay up to date with what I am doing, be sure to follow me on Goodreads and all of my social media platforms. I will have all the links to all my platforms in the description box below. Okay guys, I will see you in the next one. Bye!
Pull the key out the ignition. Run your mouth but I never listen. You hold me back, will never last. Keep talking all your shit. Wondering how all this started. You left me broken hearted. You flip my words, yeah, this love hurts. Keep talking all your shit.